Welcome to the channel of WeThePeopleOfEarth.biz.com.org. You pick your dot, we'll pick your, well, whatever. September 11th, 2012. We all remember that is a 911 day, an emergency day for the world. Of course, I'm not going to go into the history of all of that. What I'm going to talk about here is, well, the cause that created the impetus of the idea of the plan to buy the world. And actually, it sort of started because I started contemplating September 11th, 2011, which is now past a year, but way back in 2003, it was many years in advance, and it seemed clear that it was only a matter of time, certainly maybe not by that time, but certainly by some date and time, that terrorists will get a hold of nukes and destroy cities and bring our civilization down. But let's forget the bad news. On March 1st, 2005, I started thinking about good news, and I contemplated the plan to buy the world and the entire world. And you might say, how could somebody buy the world? And certainly I can guarantee right now, and even back then, I was not really that wealthy, certainly nowhere near. Well, there's nobody rich enough to buy the world. That's another interesting thing. Not even close, but actually you can buy the world, and that's what we're going to discuss, because I didn't need to buy the world. In fact, I didn't even want the world for myself. I wanted to buy it for the people of Earth. So if I'm buying it for you, I can, well, do some things differently, because I can use your money, other people's money, to buy. Well, I'm buying it for you, so it is your money. So when I'm using other people's money, it's your money. And so I'm buying it for us. In fact, it's not really me doing it. In fact, I don't even plan to do it. My plan is you do it. And if you don't do it, you don't do it. That's as simple as the game is. I'm just the messenger. I was the messenger then. I'm the messenger now. I'm maybe never messenger. It may never matter. But that's not the point. Maybe it is. You could decide what are the points that matter. But the key to why I could buy the world, besides the fact that I flew my camel through the needle's eye, through the eye of the pyramid on the dollar bill, and that's a long story we'll eventually make quite short, well, or longer. But all you need is a plan to advance the value of the world. And if you had such a plan to advance the value of the world, if the world's worth 100 trillion and the world's worth 500 trillion, whatever that number is, and you have a plan that can double the planet's value, the whole planet's value, virtually overnight. And what is overnight? Well, in the infinite period of time, it could be a year, it could be 5 years, it could be 19 years, it doesn't matter. But if you have a plan to double the value quickly, okay, quickly, I mean, if it's double the value over the next 200 years, it might go that fast anyway. It might even be, I don't know, how long is it going to take you to double your value? Right now it's going down. It's going to take a long time just before you start going back up again. That's another problem, because without growth you have no value. And so the value of the world is based on the economy, and the economy is, well, not looking too good right now. We could really use some infusion of alien capital, and I'm here to provide you an infusion of alien capital. Would you accept an infusion of alien capital? Would you accept alien debt if the aliens arrived and said, we'll give you a mortgage on the Earth? Well, actually, if they were smart aliens, they'd say, listen, we don't want your mortgage. Eventually you're going to go bankrupt and not be able to pay it. We just want a cut of your action. How about a cut of your action? We'll give you some money for a cut of your action. But anyway, let's get back to the point, not to the aliens, because that's just sort of a crazy analogy. But if you can increase the value by double, okay, if you do that quickly, then over time, then it's doubling and doubling again. It's going faster because you're raising that rate, even if the rate goes back to what so-called normality of growth is. But there's an exponentiation process here. If you can actually get this thing going by multiples, well, you get to a point where you have so much wealth that, well, see, that's the question. How much wealth can we legitimately have? And Well, the wealth is an illusion, and that's a longer part of the story of how I could buy the world, because your entire monetary construct is an illusion. I realized way back then it's really simple. First thing, it's only a matter of time. Between war is not an option. It's really not an option now. You talk about Iran. They get nukes, no problem. They're mad. They're not mad enough to go nuke on us. Well, maybe they will, and go back to your Armageddon as you think about it as a Bible, but I think it's in your head enough to scare you. The Armageddon in your Bibles are designed to scare you into the right thinking. And the right thinking is going to scare many of you because it involves creating a world of justice and peace and earth, a single global market, a single global security plan, a single global currency. That's the solution to the problem, and that to many of you will be quite scary. Anybody that would suggest that's coming along, whoa, those are the signs of the Antichrist. But I don't want to go there because let's not get biblical here, because that's only a side to the story later. Actually, it is a part of the thing. When you go to buy the world, let's get to the point, okay? You just can't avoid. If I'm going to take the world from where it is today to where it's going in the future, you can't avoid where it is today. And where it is today is that a high percentage of the people believe on what we call religions. And, well, if you do the math on those, they're predominantly, there's lots of them in the world, but there's like massive amounts. There's over 2 billion Christians, 1.5 billion Muslims and growing, and, well, there's not many Jews. That's an interesting number. But then which is, I mean, in the few millions, and I think they're hiding their demographics. They must be secreting Jews all over the world, because they certainly don't. If you Google them up and do the demographics for Wiki, it doesn't seem like they have it right. But anyway, but then there's like Buddhists and Hindus. There's some big populations there. But once you get beyond that, there's many. But you can't really go forward with a story of the future without sort of understanding the story of the past. And really, the only way that we can bridge towards peace and justice on earth is to see the commonality, to see the common thread, to see the wisdom, and actually to see the God, the common God in all our religions. And to many of you that will seem to be blasphemy, but that's not. Those were the beliefs of Gandhi. That's not blasphemy. Was Gandhi a blasphemous? No, Gandhi saw that God was the same. But let's stop there and let's go into the plan to buy the world. You see, if you can create a scenario where the rich get richer, but then you ask yourself, what do the rich really need? Well, what do you do when you're Bill Gates rich? Well, he's trying to give it away. He's trying to change the world. So what could the rich get richer with? They could be founding fathers of the future of Earth. Those that are the greats, our goats, our greatest of all times, can be our leaders. Those, the sheep, can be sheep. But in order for us to trust our leaders to lead, they must lead for all of us. And we must be in the enterprise together. And what we will learn, because of the challenges of labor going forward, and I'll talk to a few of them, what we will learn going forward is that we must turn the world from its sort of labor capital model to a model where all people are capitalists. All people have a piece of the action. Now, how do you do that? Well, if we buy the world, my plan is buy the world, but if we can create double the value, give the people that had the world that I bought it from a chunk of the value, give them whatever the number is, but then give the people that don't have anything, and that's a lot, give them a piece of the action. Now, it's not going to be like stock as you see, so they go out and cash it. No, it's going to be like irretrievable, and it's going to be stock that generates. They're going to be in the bottom line, the foundation, the startup, the foundation capital of the startup of the future of Earth. That'll be the ground floor opportunity business of all time, the enterprise of all the Earth that's going to coordinate and connect all the great global enterprises and resources and maximize the value of everyone on the planet and invest We'll be able to invest like crazy, restructure the global debt. How can we do that? Because in the transition from today's order to the future order, we can reconstruct our order, reconstruct our debts into equities. We can start to monetize our planet. And that's a longer story, and I don't want to get technical on you, but there's a way to monetize the planet. If we created a global bank, we could put things behind it. People argue about who owns the Arctic. Let's give the Arctic to the bank. The people of the world now own the Arctic. Okay, who owns Antarctica? Let's give it to the bank. The people of the world own the bank. Now, okay, there are countries that own the things. Well, here's the thing. What you gotta realize is that we're in nations together. China requires the United States market and European market, or they have no miracle. Russia relies on Europe and other markets for their energy product that keeps their economies going. Brazil too. India relies on these markets. The United States relies on them, and at the same time, well, can't get enough growth itself while it's servicing its debt, while the Europeans have the same problem. And we must handle our long-term conceptual structural problems. And actually, this is where it gets weird, because peace on earth comes with a big price tag of jobs. This is why they don't want to go out of war, because how many soldiers would be out of war if we decided, listen, we're just going to put these guys out. We're not going to go to the Middle East. We're going to just say, hey guys, you're on your own. We're using drones. We're going to drone you out, although I highly don't recommend the explosion of drones, because I envision a future where drones become the weapons of terror. See, the weapons of today becomes the terrorist weapons of the future. We can't proliferate the weapons, but anyway, let's just think about it. If all of a sudden we start having justice on earth, we'll have to clean up the jails, we'll lose jailer jobs, and there's going to be lots of jobs being lost. But what we make up in the jobs lost for killing is we make up in the jobs of building, and we make up the jobs of building housing and food and the things that people know, the things that people measure value. See, it's not important, the monetary value of your paper, whatever your money is. Whatever money it is right here, it's not important what that value is. Well, it sort of is, and it's an exchange of currency, which is always important. And by the way, my currency that I propose is entirely virtual. Now, what is an entirely virtual currency? That means it's entirely a computer. It doesn't exist in paper. A computerized currency is entirely trackable. Well, what does the black market do when you track all the currency transactions? What do corrupt people do when their currency is moving around? How do you bribe people? It gets much more complicated. But beyond that, we can actually trace the currency, and then the currency itself could be our method of tax collection. That's right. We would be able to minimize what we know down to government, maybe to zero, make them parts of the enterprise. But the currency itself could have, like, the percentages. I'm just going to throw out a number, but if every currency transaction just took a 1%, and like you wouldn't need Visa and MasterCard, you just had 1%, it'd be cheaper than a Visa MasterCard transaction. And what we might be able to, if we did it cheap and everything, and really cheap enough, we might be able to like make that tax run some part of the government, and then maybe income's taxed at 10%. Whatever those numbers are, they build them in the system, and they might be different in nations, but then those taxes are all collected, and they're all automatic, and they're all integrated into one system, and the system will have data, all of the data and information, and we'll have to deal with privacy concerns, but also we'll have to deal with the concerns of how do we deliver the best products to us, and we must use data and artificial intelligence to take our mind beyond our own mind. And that's where it really gets interesting. That's where we go quite far beyond where we are. And, well, I'll just stop here, because when I start talking, can you hear me now, Hal Watson? Can you hear me now, Hal Watson?